Are you dealing with stress? Do you sometimes just feel down, unable to get up early in the morning or whatever time you do get up? Are you just almost at a point of depression and just uncertain what life is about? Bronwyn Schweigerdt has an interesting approach to how to work with stress, to relieve that stress. She has a series of podcasts on this. Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Bronwyn Schweigerdt, who discusses with us stress relief. Stress can be caused in various forms, various topics: grief, worrying about debt, finances, any number of things. But she talks with us about non-medicinal approaches to stress relief, and it's a very interesting podcast, and it's a very insightful one to help us get beyond stress. Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Bronwyn?
This was an interesting podcast in that your reaction to, say, something has happened and I walk into the office because something happened to me, I felt rejected or I felt like it wasn't right. You had nothing to do with it, but I snap when you say something to me. So the person that receives that snap should not feel that it's their fault. I snapped at them.
Great opportunity to learn about stress relief. Let's listen and learn together. Bronwyn, it's good to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be very intrigued with your aspect and how you work with people as a psychotherapist. And for our listeners, I consider myself almost the antithesis of a psychotherapist by virtue of I'm a military guy and I'm an aerospace engineer by education and so forth, but I do like to work with people to help them reach their maximum potential. And I do know that sometimes our inner feelings and our negative inner feelings hold us back. And I think you have a lot to offer us in that context. But Bronwyn, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you. Well, you keep saying you're the antithesis of a therapist, Marty, or Ron, sorry. But you're human. And that's the one thing we all have in common, no matter what we know about psychology, what we know about talking about feelings or how comfortable that is for us. We're all human and we all have the whole gamut of feelings. And use the word negative. I don't really love that phrase, negative, because I see, all feelings are there for a reason. They're there for a good reason. They're there to give us information, to inform us, to give us wisdom in how we're going to act. So there's no such thing as a negative feeling. There are negative ways to, you know, act out those feelings for sure. And I think that's, my specialty is anger. And most of us associate anger with like exploding, blowing up, being violent, being verbally violent. But, our anger, we can just also just feel our anger in our body. And I see anger as like the light on the dashboard of our car that says, hey, something's wrong. Check the engine. Something's off. Something needs repair. And so I see anger as just a warning sign to say, you know what? Something's wrong here. And let's take a look and let's bring about resolution. So I think we have to, kind of, that's why it's not negative, but it can be negative, absolutely. And depending on our relationship to our anger.
And here's where I'm going with the negative.
Hmm.
I I heard a person say one time, "My feelings are never wrong." And
Mm,
I am a kind of person that, well, now I'm curious, do your feelings
mm,
align with fact, or
mm,
are you just feeling a way because of whatever the external factors are, which
hmm.
don't necessarily align with
Yeah,
fact? And
with reality.
I
Yeah.
will tell you that my approach to people is, well, let's talk about it. And I want to
Hmm.
spend most of my time listening, but anger. I know, Bronwyn, that a lot of times people are angry because, and is it helpful just to release your anger by talking about it, or is it, how do we get rid of anger, or can you?
Yeah, so there's not like a one size fits all. So yeah, for some people, that anger is very valid in that situation. And I think that's a really good question that you're asking, Ron. For other people, it's not a good metric of reality at all because, we all have triggers. We all have triggers from our early childhood, actually. And so, the main trigger that I have found that humans tend to have are when we feel rejected, by someone. So that can be like when someone gives us a silent treatment, that can be when we feel excluded or not wanted, or it can be a whole host of things, or someone just not listening to us, that feels like rejection. Um, so we most of us have that trigger, and it's really imperative that we feel it and we're aware of it, and we say, if I feel rejected, because let's say I'm talking to you right now, Ron, and maybe you're not making eye contact with me, maybe you're looking over there, and I'm feeling kind of rejected, right? I can own that, and I can say, wow, to myself, I'm feeling triggered because I'm feeling kind of like I'm not a priority right now, like I'm feeling kind of rejected by Ron because he's not looking at me. And I can say to myself, is this based in reality right now? Or is this just my trigger being triggered? And so that's my responsibility to own my trigger in that situation. That's my responsibility to have that self-awareness and to kind of root into reality. But I do have to be aware of it. And if we're not aware, we can't be responsible. So if it's unconscious and you're looking away and I'm unconsciously feeling really angry, but I don't even know it's because I feel rejected in the moment that I have this trigger, then I might be passive aggressive to you. I might be like explosive, who knows? Um, or I might just stuff my anger down because I don't really have a relationship with you and I can't afford to, be angry with you. But that anger is going to seep out in my relationship with my spouse or with my children or with the people closest to me. So that anger, I have to be responsible for it and I have to be responsible with it. And the best way to be responsible with our feelings is to just know they're there, to be aware of them. And then I can say directly to you, Ron, I really love having this conversation, but you keep looking away. And I'm just wondering, like, is it me or are you like preoccupied with something? And I can just be like a grown up in the moment and just kind of name what's going on. And then maybe you say, you know what, Bronwyn, I'm so sorry. I was really distracted because, like, I think we're having an earthquake and whatever. And then I'm going to be like, oh, wow. Okay. I wasn't being rejected. I am important to Ron, right? Or maybe you'll say, what are you talking about? I wasn't looking elsewhere, and you're defending, right? And then I'm going to get angrier. So it really, the bottom line is that we have to be aware of what we're feeling. We have to name it. We have to be responsible in the moment. And that's going to look different with the person we're with. With some people, it's going to be being assertive. With some people, it's going to be having boundaries. Um, some people, it's just going to be asking a question like, hey, am I chopped liver? What's going on here? So it really depends.
No, thank you. I'm very intrigued with what you're saying. Feelings of rejection, yes, they're very real in the
Yeah.
context of the persons who might say my feelings are never wrong, and I would say, okay, I don't doubt you do feel rejected, but then it seems you're saying, well, talk about it, discuss it between you.
Mhm.
I feel rejected because this is what I'm observing from you. Is it
Yeah.
a matter of being that honest about your feeling? And I guess I'm asking it inherent in the question is, I've got to feel confident enough in myself that I can even do that.
Yeah, and that is going to be, again, this is all just dependent on the situation, on the context, on the person. So let's say you're my boss, and I'm seeing a pattern with you where I just feel dismissed by you when I bring things up, and there's a pattern. So at some point, I'm going to need to address that pattern if we're going to have like a good rapport and a working relationship. And if I don't address it, I'm going to bring home all this suppressed anger in my body with me again back to my loved ones at home. It's going to leak out. So I need to figure out a way to be responsible with my anger, not suppressing it with my boss. Now, some bosses are safe people to bring these things up with. Some bosses you can say, hey, boss, you know what? This keeps happening, and I'm not feeling heard by you. Some bosses are not safe people to ever have that conversation with. They're gonna defend, they're gonna attack, they're gonna throw us under the bus. So it really depends. In that case, I could channel my anger out of my body in a responsible way by going above the boss, maybe, and seeking accountability above the boss, because it would be counterproductive to confront someone who's not a safe person versus a safe person, right?
Yes. One of the things Marty and I advocate with our practice is working with leaders to create a psychologically safe environment or culture. One,
Mhm.
in I'll define that, Bronwyn, in my terms, being psychologically safe is I can express my feelings with you,
Mhm.
and I'm hoping you don't come
Mhm.
back with some kind of maybe a smart aleck comment. Oh,
Mm.
Ron, come on, get over yourself.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of those people who do that, and that's something I talk a lot of. So I talk about all this on my own podcast, which is called Angry at the Right Things, but I talk about that as well, like confronting someone who's not a safe person or dealing with someone who's not a safe person, because they're everywhere. And we can't just, isolate ourselves from everyone who's unsafe, or else we'd never leave our house, right? Or maybe we would leave our house too. But we can just say, let's say, like you're suggesting that I said, come on, Ron, whatever, or this person said that to you, come on, get over yourself. Then I would say, well, what I would do is be a mirror. So with unsafe people, or any people for that matter, you can be a mirror. And a mirror isn't attacking that person, it's not aggressive. It's just giving them a true reflection of what they're doing. It's not engaging with that person, like arguing. It's not that. It's almost like you're detached, have this healthy detachment, like you're kind of a fly on the ceiling looking down, having this healthy objectivity, and you just name what's going on. So I would say, wow, I'm trying to express my feelings to you, and it seems like you're not willing to hear them right now. Like, I'm hearing a lot of defensiveness. That must be really hard for you to hear my feelings.
All right. So for the person, and now I guess what I'm asking is for the person who just doesn't feel comfortable being that, I call it overtly honest, and for me, it's a form of active listening as I'm listening to you. but that is okay. I'm interpreting what our conversation is as you're looking beyond me. You don't seem to care, but you're expressing what you're interpreting of the person's reaction to me. Is that what a part of what you're advocating is? Do always be let's say confident enough to express that way, and hey, let's just make sure we put everything on the table.
Well, I don't know about always, but yeah, in general, so it is confidence, and it also is what we call assertiveness. And I think most people confuse aggressiveness and assertiveness. And so, let's say I'm talking to you and you cut me off mid-sentence. Like, it's not aggressive to do this. I could just say, "Wow, Ron, you just cut me off in mid-sentence. Like, I'm not I don't know what to say right now. I'm just feeling kind of confused." That's not an aggressive thing to say. That's like an honest thing to say. And I'm not attacking you. I'm just like I'm narrating what just happened, right?
No, I totally agree with you. But I'm trying to project myself as the maybe low confident introvert who, it doesn't have to necessarily be
Mm.
an introvert, but at least, wow, I don't feel that I'm that confident that I can, let's say, mirror back what my feelings are, that you may think something less of me. And so maybe I don't even want to express that. I mean, am I expressing a very low confidence of a person who would even express it this way with you?
Yeah, so it sounds like there's like fear about that person exploding. Maybe is that what you're getting at? Like that
Yes,
person, like,
yes,
okay,
exactly. And
okay,
I really, I just, if I'm the kind of person that almost at all cost, I want to try to maintain civil relationship. And if
yeah.
I say anything that might even, someone may even consider controversial, yes, I'm being assertive, but yet I just don't want to create controversy.
Well, let me ask you, Ron, are you the one creating it when you're naming what someone else is actually doing, or are they the one creating it by doing those things?
No, that's a very fair question, and but again, I'm trying to project for our
Mhm.
listener, and I'll say it at a very early age. I was a person. I was very low confidence,
Yeah,
and I just did not want to confront people. I did not want anyone to ask me for my opinion and so forth.
yeah.
At an earlier age, I would just avoid people because you're probably going to disagree with me anyway. So let's don't even
Mhm.
engage in conversation.
Okay. Well, I have a great response for you and everyone who is feeling represented by you. Um, Here's rule number one. This big boundary, you guys probably talk about boundaries from here, here and there. There's this big invisible boundary in the world, and the most important one is that I am only responsible for my feelings. I am not responsible for your feelings. I am responsible to you, but I am never responsible for you or anyone else's feelings. So when I can really appropriate that and really understand that because a lot of us were raised, we learned implicitly that we're responsible for mom and dad's feelings. We're responsible for them always being happy and never being angry. And when we implicitly, take that in, that's something we have to unlearn as adults because we will be the most anxious adults. We will be codependent, is what that is always trying to make everyone happy. Because when we do continue to feel responsible for other people's feelings, we cannot simultaneously be responsible for our own. It's an either or, it's a choice. And so, what I tell my clients as a therapist is you can believe you're responsible for other people's feelings, but it's actually impossible and you will die trying. And so we can choose to only be responsible for our feelings and be responsible to others, but not for them. And so when I have really appropriated that, then I can have the confidence to be assertive and be that mirror to someone and say, Ron, I'm noticing this pattern of you cutting me off, and I'm not comfortable with that. Because if you do explode, if you do attack, if whatever you do, those are your feelings, not mine. And I am not responsible for your anger. You are.
No, that's very well said. I know there are some family cultures, and we've spoken with people who were raised this way, that if you're, well, no matter what your feelings are and what, if you're angry, whatever, we in this family just don't talk about it. You just go on about life. And come on, just it seems a bit of get over yourself, but we in this family don't express ourselves that way. Just move on. And to those kind of people, I would say that no, you're it would seem you might just be bottling up anger,
Yeah.
and you need an outlet. And don't ever just bottle it up. That's my thought behind it.
That's right. Because when we suppress our anger, Freud is the one who first said depression is anger turned inward. And I can't think of a truer statement. But anxiety is also suppressed anger. So suppressed anger turns into depression, anxiety, even bipolar like mania, psychosis. I mean, um, so it also turns into insomnia and difficulty sleeping and migraines and digestive disorders and all these phantom autoimmune disorders that no one knows where they come from. I mean, it makes us sick. Suppressed anger makes us sick. So I always like to say, anger is invisible. That is true. But truth be told, it is more real than this couch I'm sitting on right now. And it doesn't just evaporate into the ether, it stores up in our bodies and it makes us sick in some way. So it's really important that we express it, we externalize it out of our bodies in healthy ways. And that is just like being assertive, bringing about that accountability, having boundaries.
I was going to ask you or say to you, you were talking about, uh, I'm not responsible for your anger. I'm not responsible for your feelings. So for you, or for the person that says, I'm not responsible for your feelings, you're setting boundaries on
Mhm.
yourself, correct? I'm not going to
Yes.
let it bother me because you're the one having the problem, or you're the one that's angry about something.
Yeah. I mean, you can say it or you can just say it to yourself. But, I mean, it took me, I'm in my 50s. It took me just to like a year or two ago when I was finally able to just let my dad be mad and be in his presence, be like, so sorry. So sorry. You're imploding right now. Not my problem. Did I say those things out loud? No. But I felt them and I felt totally fine just being like, uh, this is still the only way that we're going to be able to do this. And I just stood my ground because I didn't allow his red face to intimidate me. And I didn't back down because I just reminded myself, those are his feelings, not yours, Bronwyn.
Mhm.
I want to ask you an opinion. I saw a video, it was actually just a few days ago, of a group of women, and this is, I don't think it's gender specific, it just happened to be a videotape of a group of women who apparently had suppressed anger, and they were in the woods. They each had sticks, and on command, they were beating the stick on the ground, yelling, and so forth. And I guess that was that person's method of psychotherapy to release inner feelings. I don't know. To me, it just seemed bizarre, but I don't know. I guess each to their own.
Well, I would actually say, unfortunately, no, it doesn't actually work. There, have you guys heard of rage rooms?
I have not, but I can picture just the
Yeah.
term, what it is.
So you can pay to go to a rage room where they put all this, safety goggles and whatever on you, and they give you all these like old computer related things to bash with like a golf club or a baseball bat, and it's like free therapy or not free, it's therapy, but um so studies show those don't actually work because they actually just, that anger, that rage at the time when you're expressing it, it just recruits more parts of the brain to be more angry, actually. So it actually has a counterproductive result. But what I have found is that just putting our feelings into words, and I can do that in a fantasy letter that I write to, let's say, my father, a fantasy letter. I'm not going to send him this letter. This is for me to say everything I just really need to say, externalize it out of my body into words. So that's part one. Part two, I find someone who will listen and validate so I can read that letter to them, because it's not going to be him. That would be counterproductive. Now I'm going to be more angry because I'm feeling more unheard. But I can find like a friend or hopefully a good therapist. There's not a lot of those, unfortunately, but someone who's just angry with me and for me, someone who's not trying to talk me out of my anger, someone who's not like, well, Bronwyn, think about how he felt. No, someone who's just like, wow, I totally get why you feel that way. Someone who's just validating me. And when that happens, it actually calms the part of our brain, the limbic brain, because I feel heard, I feel understood. I don't feel alone in my anger. So what's shareable is bearable. And now that anger has dissipated out of my body and I'm good. I'm feeling great.
No, I appreciate what you just said. That so there is some therapeutic value. I don't want to go into being a therapist, but there is therapeutic value of just documenting your feelings, and then find I guess I would call it an empathetic person who's willing to listen,
Mhm.
and you just verbalize the words, your feelings. It's therapeutic to do that. Am I interpreting you correctly?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's hard to find those people because so many people, like my husband, for example, like he's still struggling. He's still on the learning curve here. Like he keeps saying, but if I validate your anger, then it's going to get worse. And I'm like, no, it will get better. It is very counterintuitive. And I will name that. It's so counterintuitive. So my anger actually diminishes when you validate it. It might get bigger for like, 30 seconds, but at the end, it's gone. Like it's out of my system. I feel completely better. And I'm finally able to go from my limbic brain into my prefrontal cortex and my logical part and go, well, now that I say that, I am able to see his point of view. So now I can do that for myself. I don't need someone else to logic me. I need another human being to hear me and make me feel heard. So now I can enter my logic part of my brain and do the logicking on my own.
I'm thinking of the listener who might be somewhat similar to your husband, but let's just say they've had something occurred, who knows, 30, 50 years ago. And
Mhm.
it's in I call it the subconscious,
Yeah.
but it is a matter of, okay, verbalizing maybe. And do you go all the way back, that kind of thing, to say, oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's release it.
Oh, yes. And the reason it's still there is because we still have residual anger there. That's why we're stuck. That's why people get stuck. Is there still anger? So, yes, absolutely. Time is, a construct, but I'm all about time travel. I mean, let's go back and let's let little Ron finally say what he needed to say. That's unfinished business, and that's really important to do. Let's let little Ron finally speak what he needed to say in that moment in fantasy to his mom or his dad and finally get that validation from someone who is a safe person. Absolutely.
I want to ask you, sometimes you get angry and then you're sorry you got angry and you go, oh, why did I get angry over that? It was such a small matter.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know how you deal with how does a person deal with that?
Well, that's probably from something that's a trigger.
Mm.
So again, like, that I would reflect on that. Take time to reflect. I'm not big into meditation, but I am into reflection. Like just taking time, we could be, outside on a walk or whatever, but just taking time to like reflect on ourselves. Like, what was that all about? Why did I have that kind of reaction? Like, is this like a pattern for me? Is this something that's rooted in my early childhood? What is this about? And getting to know ourselves and getting to know our triggers and kind of owning those things. And what do I need in the moment when that shows up for me? Maybe I just need to reassure myself, like, this is a different person. This person isn't ignoring you right now, even though it feels like it, or whatever that is.
Mhm.
It's very possible we have a listener who, listening to you, is recalling something from some time in the past, and they're saying now that I'm going to use the word triggered or
Mhm.
activated a thought.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
goes back to X decades ago. I just need to release that. Do you work with people, let's say virtually or in person? How would you work with a person to help them overcome any fears, anxieties, any pin-up emotions? And I'm not sure I'm using the terms you would use.
That's fine. Yeah, so I would direct them to my podcast because that's actually why I produce it. It's my passion project to help people who are not my actual clients learn all of these principles. And so I have a co-host. Her name is Katie. She's my best friend. And I actually do the exercises I do on my clients. So the listeners can then do them for themselves at home. So there's some really simple exercises that I lead Katie in just so everyone can learn. So, yeah, if someone has stuff from the past, I mean, we all have stuff from the past. Of course we do. So, I lead people in like I call it an integration exercise. So, their adult self um, recognizes and validates their young self when that happens. And it's really powerful. I have seen people absolutely, it's like, I want to say they came back to life after the exercise, but I would actually say they came to life maybe for the first time after doing this exercise. And I learned it because I did it for myself because I needed it. So it's so healing. And I really believe that is the end goal. To have mental health is to be integrated, to be an integrated person, to be whole, to be complete. Where, I'm 53 on the outside and I'm now finally 53 on the inside too, right? And where I'm integrated, where I'm not relating to myself the way my parents related to me. I've created a healthy, whole, and healed relationship with my inner child. And so I'm healed now.
What you just said is very important to
Yeah.
yeah, to be healed of various feelings and so forth. For the listener who is intrigued and wants more information, can you give us the name of your podcast? Where would they find that?
Yeah, you can find it wherever you subscribe, and it's called Angry at the Right Thing.
Angry at the Right Things. Now, is there a subscription fee or how
No.
would, okay, so you offer your therapeutic service in the form of a podcast, and
Yeah.
now, would the listener get all the benefit they need from your podcast, or is there more to follow? I guess what I'm leading up to, Bronwyn, would a phone call, visit, anything of that nature?
Well, I can only take people in, yeah, I take just certain insurance and only in the state of California. So it's highly unlikely that I would. But yeah, I would say the podcast, I mean, so far I think I have 17 episodes, which are all probably an hour long. So that's 17 hours of me talking basically, because I don't interview other people. It's just me talking about all these principles. So I should hope that could help. 17 hours can help a lot of people go a long way.
No, that's just great. Now I'm curious. Of the 17 episodes that are nearly an hour long, does the listener need to listen to those podcasts in a specific sequence, or are they
No.
entitled just pick the one that best suits you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that I would just start with, maybe the first one and just see where you go.
Right. Bronwyn, you've got a great practice. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
offering your services to the listeners. And I do know what it is. Some people with the suppressed, pent up anger, whatever
Yeah.
term we want to put to it, we do need to release that. And we need to have the right environment, the right people with the right empathy. And again, I'm using my own terms, but when you find that person, you can become a whole person, and everything can return to a normal. And again, I know I'm not necessarily using your terms, but I do know that some people who have the pent up anger can't sleep well, and it's there are a lot of things that are just churning in their mind.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that very human phenomena. Yes.
Thank you so much for everything you do, Bronwyn. And I want to encourage our listeners to look for your podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, Marty, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.